Welcome everybody, my name's Rose Smith from AbsoluteSoulSecrets.com. Thanks for joining me for the Vivacious Virgo March Horoscope. Okay, so some good news this month. We don't have any retrograding planets to slow us down. We don't have any eclipses. There are no major aspect patterns in your chart that I can see anyway. And so it's full steam ahead. We should be able to make some progress this month and feel like we're actually getting somewhere in life. The other interesting thing that's happening is in the US, there's a thing called the Pluto return, which started last month. It will go to 2024, and you know, it is going to be a bit of an emotional roller coaster, especially if you're resident in the US. But even so, whatever the US does affects the whole entire world. And here in my country in Australia, we're always very quick, or quite often we're quite quick to adopt US policies. So don't think if you're not living in the US that you're not going to be affected, because you will be in some way. And so that's sort of like a background kind of energy that's going on, and there's a definite transition and transformation that's going on at a very deep level in society. Pluto return happens when Pluto returns to the same spot as it was when the Declaration of Independence was signed. So that's roughly every 247 years. It depends, you know, exactly, but on a number of factors. But anyway, so yeah, we can expect over the next few years to see all sorts of things around life, death, and rebirth. And particularly, we have things going on concerning the economy, and so there could be major changes around cryptocurrencies and the economy, for example. But anyway, I'm here to talk about Virgo, so I won't get too sidetracked. The important thing to note is there's a lot of spiritual progress going on at the moment. All right, we're going to talk about your individual chart, and just to explain, I like to draw 2 tarot cards as theme cards for the month for you. I'll have a look at your chart in depth, and then I'll do a psychic channeling at the end, so stay around for that too. Okay, if you're new, subscribe and be alive and hit that notification bell right now. Let's go to the board. Okay, so I'm going to pick these 2 cards first. Let's see what these themes are. You can think of the first card as the first half of the month if you wish. And I'm going to go with that one, close my eyes. I get the sensation of vehicles again. That's that sort of underlying energy of forward progression. These changes, you know, and you might feel like time is speeding up and it's hard to keep up with everything. So it's a good idea to write everything down. I always use like an old-fashioned paper diary. I just can't be bothered with technology all of the time, and so I find it actually helps me think if I write it down. So the card that comes up is the 7 of Swords. The traditional meaning for this is a thief in the night card, it's called, but I don't really see it that way. I don't see it in a negative light because of this bright yellow pants that she's wearing here. To me, it's like more moving away from a very stressful situation where there's been a lot of thinking going on, and maybe you overthink sometimes, dear Virgos. And you'll see all of these swords. These are decisions that have to be made, and she's put 2 swords into the ground. And so this says that it's about making your decisions physical, okay, manifesting them here on Earth. Sometimes these this shape here of like a pyramid, it can indicate the chakras, which I often think of, but it can also mean travel. So you might be thinking about travel this month as well, and maybe you feel like you just need to get away from everything for a little while, and that's okay too. Let's have a look at the second card and see what is afoot. Okay, we'll go with that one. Closing my eyes now, what do I see for Virgo in March? Okay, I see a whole bunch of grapes actually. They're the light green seedless grapes, which I must have some actually. And there's a lot of yellow in the grapes, so this is more about achievement and success, and it means that something that you've been working on is coming to fruition. It's coming to harvest. So maybe you can go away for a weekend or somewhere and enjoy the spoils, you know, that you deserve after working on something for a time. Could be a project or, you know, something at work. Okay, so this suggests that there's been a disappointment, perhaps in a love relationship. You can see she's crying there. Decisions have to be made around this. Maybe you need to get away to think and make decisions without input of other people, perhaps. And you might find sometimes that your life, you might be successful in one area of life, but yet in relationships, not so much. And it's hard to work out, especially if you're a professional person. You know, this is something that happens quite a lot with professional people, because they might be working really hard towards their goals and achieving, but on some level the relationships suffer. So, you know, there might be some decisions you need to make about relationships. It doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship will finish, and it doesn't mean necessarily that it's a you know, romantic relationship. Could even be a friendship, but it's something that is causing a bit of disappointment, basically. Okay, so here's your chart. We're going to have a look at that now. So I'll just make it bigger. Keep these two cards in mind, because they often come up in the course of the reading as we look at the astrology. And you'll see we've got the balance of the planets here on what's called the western side of the wheel. And so it's called a royal chart actually, and that's like there's some sort of reliance or some sort of focus on relationships with other people this month. The good news: no retrogrades, eclipses, or, you know, recognizable aspect patterns. Your ruler Mercury is very busy this month, Virgo, because it's going to jump from the 6th to the 7th to the 8th houses. And so this brings a lot of communications and a lot of activity and a lot of thinking. And you can see here in the cards we've got swords and swords, which swords is the suit of thinking, okay, making decisions. We've also got, if you're in the US, we've got 2 new moons if you're on Pacific time or some places in mountain time. Boise doesn't seem to have this, so I don't know why, what they're doing with their time zones there. But it's basically on the 31st of the month there's a second new moon, so that's called a black moon, and we get it every, I think it's every 26 months. Okay, if you're east of those areas, then you'll get your new moon on the 1st of April along with the rest of the world. And something I noticed here was this stellium here in the 5th house with Venus and Mars and Pluto, and this could be life, death and rebirth of a love affair. A lover could come back, perhaps. So you've got this card here saying there's some sort of disappointment, but something could be reborn again at some point. The other thing, this is a stellium also, but because it's the sun and the moon, these are very fast moving, and so it's not going to be for very long, whereas Mars and Pluto are much slower moving, you know, so this is going to last for a lot longer. Venus moves 0.62 of a degree every day, so it's very quickly will catch up to Mars and Pluto and move on. Okay, but at the start of the month, yes, it's a stellium. Okay, so that makes your creativity, your playfulness, your desire for entertainment and fun, and your romance makes it very quite strong this month. Okay, so let's have a look at some of these influences in depth now. The beginning of the month, from basically the 27th of February to about the 2nd or the 3rd of the month, is very, very busy. And there's a lot happening with Mars and Venus. And with this gives you very, very strong desires to, move ahead and get your feelings met, and it gives you strong passion, around romance here in the 5th house. So we've got, at the beginning of the month, Mars conjuncting Venus. We've got Mars conjuncting Mars. We've got we've got Mercury conjuncting Mercury, okay, and we've got Venus trining your MC and Mars trining your MC. So there could be, any number of effects, but certainly strong sexual feelings and romantic passions are likely to be stirred up. There's also the new moon in your 7th house as well, bringing new beginnings around important relationships. And there with the Sun and Jupiter and Neptune, there's some sort of expansion in your partnerships. Or perhaps if you've had a casual arrangement with someone, you might find that it's going to a deeper level now, some sort of level of commitment. You're likely to be quite mentally sharp and clear, and you'll be able to comprehend what's going on with your ruler Mercury conjuncting Mercury also at the beginning of the month, okay? There's also with Venus trining your MC. Your MC is like your general life direction as well as your vocation, okay? The work that your heart wants you to do, or your general life direction. It's here in the 9th house, which is about expanding your life and broadening your horizons, and that might be through travel, particularly to do with foreign countries, or somewhere more exotic, or people that have some sort of foreign connection. And remember, I was saying here that these tents can indicate travel, okay? And the tent door is open. It can be your chakras opening up. And often as that happens, you want to travel as well, because you want to go out into the world and find out more as your chakras opening up, blocked energies being released and new energies coming in. And so you want to find out more about the world. So yeah, it's a really favourable time, and perhaps you might be thinking about another job as well. And you do have stuff going on here in your 6th house, Saturn and Mercury. So this could be sort of structured communications about your work, or perhaps your health and your well-being. The other thing to note at the beginning of the month is Mars conjuncting Pluto, and this is up to the 4th of March. It's like you want to cut something off or get rid of something, and again, swords, that's what swords do. When we make a decision, we immediately decide to cut some things out. We limit our options when we make a decision, and that's okay, because we start to focus on what it is, get more specific about what it is that we actually want. So you might have to cut some area out of your life and have some sort of overhaul. What you need to be careful of is that you don't drive yourself too hard, or, push yourself or push other people, because Mars can be a bit pushy sometimes. And the other thing is you can act with Pluto, you can act very compulsively. So you might work feverishly towards some goal and not even be sure why you're doing it. And I'm like that when I get out in the garden. It's just, I've got one thing on my mind. I'm extremely single-minded about getting this garden bed done, and nothing will stop me, regardless of the weather, I'm still doing it. And so you can become more single-minded about something, which, has its pros and cons as well. There could be a secret need for power and control which emerges now, and so it's important that you are a little bit careful about power struggles, because they could be on the cards. And you see here the card, okay, the Three of Swords suggests some sort of disappointment around relationships. So there could be some delay, or it could be a matter of somebody choosing power over passion, okay. The other things that are happening, 4th of March to the 14th of April, Mars moves into your 6th house. And I haven't written it in. Okay, so that one there moves into your 6th house, like that. Okay, and you could be pretty fired up at work and you want to accomplish a lot. Do watch the situation with your co-workers though, because they might not necessarily agree with you. And as I said, power struggles are possible. It is a great time to begin a health regime or vigorous exercise program. Do be cautious you don't push yourself too hard. Then we have from the 4th to the 5th of April, Venus also moving into your 6th house. And I don't know, I got sidetracked, didn't I? Venus, and it will move into your 6th house. It'll actually move in there. And this is fabulous for relationships at work. So you might find there's a bit of a disagreement, but then it starts going more smoothly once Venus comes in and smooths everything over, because there's much more cooperation and there's much more harmony at work. You could be a peacemaker or even a matchmaker at work, but the only thing is you mightn't feel as much energy as what you had previously. Maybe you don't want to work as intensively. It is a great time for a pleasant break from routine, even a short vacation. Okay, remember this card. You might be thinking about going away somewhere for a short time. Then we have your ruler, Mercury, moving into the 7th. So Mercury will jump up here. And it will go, there'll be so many lines here you won't be able to follow it all. Mercury moves up into the 7th house of partnerships. It's also about legalities, and in astrology we say open enemies, but an open enemy is simply someone you just don't see eye to eye with. It doesn't mean that you're serious enemies. It just means you don't like each other, or there's some issue and you're just not in agreement or alignment with that. But when Mercury goes up here, you're more likely to have more communications with your partner. You might seek out some professional advice or the counsel of others on some matter. Maybe you go and see a lawyer if you have a legal matter. All of these discussions are likely to be quite helpful for you. You could negotiate some agreement or come to a resolution of a problem that you've had for some time. You're more likely to be detached, like emotionally detached. You just want the solution, and you're not interested in getting emotionally involved. The 18th of March sees a full moon in your 2nd house here. That's a moon, by the way, a full moon. And with this, there could be some sort of shake-up around your finances, or maybe your possessions. Do make sure that, you've got your security organised and that sort of thing. But it's also a time when you just can attend to domestic tasks. The full moon might give you more energy to, clean out your cupboards or something like that, and get organised about things, because you might realise that, oh wow, this place is in a state of disorganisation, and that's the shake-up you need to actually get cracking and organise things. The only thing is with this, do be careful that you don't spend money on a whim or impulsively, because you could be, just spending money for the sake of it. Okay, it's important that when you buy stuff that it's actually practical, and you're not buying it for emotional reasons. I got an email today from some company and it says you need some retail therapy. Look, that is not therapy, that's anti-therapy. It does the reverse. It's not a good thing. Then we have the 19th of March to the 19th of April. The sun moves into your 8th house here. And so it will go like that, but it'll be here, it'll be, closer to this end. And this brings you insight and awareness around your joint resources, those assets that you share with other people. So this could be like a husband or a business partner. Maybe it's taxes that you owe, or maybe it's inheritances or something like that. And you might be looking at your investments as well. You've got the shake up here to do with your money, and also with the sun here, joint resources. There is a bit of quite a fair, degree of focus on issues of money, generally speaking. And also, the 8th house is also about intimacy, and maybe you decide with the sun there, you start to see more clearly and insightfully what you need in terms of intimacy. And it might be in a relationship that you're not happy about something, and you just decide, you make some decisions about it, okay? And it's like maybe you want a deeper union with someone, are they going to, you need to have a discussion about it. Are they going to give you what you need? 25th of March to the 10th of April, your ruler Mercury moves into the 8th house as well. Okay. And this does mean that negotiations and communications around joint finances, investments, property and intimacy is quite likely. There could also be discussions around aspects concerning death. So it could be, obviously someone might have passed away. Of course, that's always a possibility, sadly. But it can be as simple as just preparing wills or thinking about what you want in your will, or it could be your superannuation or 401k if you're in the US, and, issues like that, or even loans with banks and institutions. The 31st of March sees the new moon or black moon, depending on your location, also move into the 8th house, okay? And this brings a new beginning. A decision is finally reached around these issues of joint finances and intimacy, perhaps intimacy, one or the other, maybe both. The important thing to note here is when the moon goes in there, you might be sort of coming from a more emotional point of view then, and you tend to react from the way that, in the way that you always have in the past. So try to view the situation objectively, whatever it is, and you might find that your emotions are quite intense during this time, okay? So the 31st or the 1st of April if you're not in Western US. Okay, so I'm just going to close my eyes now and see what I can see for you, Vivacious Virgos, in March 2020. What's this thing I can see? Collarbone, it reminds me. Oh, thyroid. Okay, if you're tired, you're putting on weight, particularly if you're a woman, and particularly if you're in your 50s or older, and you've got sort of weird symptoms. Maybe your memory isn't crash hot, or your thinking is cloudy, or it's like you're in a fog, perhaps. Please get your thyroid checked, okay? I'm seeing a collarbone, and then it's like, then I'm seeing actual sort of thyroid gland. So some issue here. On the broader spiritual level, it could be about getting your message out, that you're finding it more difficult. Maybe you just feel tired and overwhelmed, okay? And you may have a message, but you don't have the energy to get it out. And so it's time to be gentle with yourself, but please go and get checked, because I really do believe that thyroid problems are epidemic in, women, particularly once they go through the menopause. That really can stuff a lot of things up. You might have been perfectly fit and well, and it change all aspects in your life. Okay, so if you're going to make important decisions, particularly about money or relationships, make sure that you're not coming from a situation like, if you have a thyroid imbalance, that can influence you to think that things are worse than they actually are. Okay, because it has, this controls and regulates your hormones, and it controls every aspect of your health, basically, right across the board. So yeah, please get your thyroid checked out. Okay, something for the number 57. I don't know, I'm thinking of Heinz beans. Was it 57 varieties? Something like that back in the 60s. Baked beans. Yeah, I'm clueless. I don't know what that means. 57 varieties, a lot of varieties of baked beans. I don't know what that means. Okay, anything else for Vivacious Virgos? You should be feeling vivacious, okay? And if you're not, there's a reason for it. You need to check that out. There's a lot of green here as I'm saying that. That means growth, opportunity, and I want to say solutions at hand. All right, so that's it for your horoscope for March 2022. I hope it's been useful for you. If you're new, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell right now. Okay, have a wonderful month, everyone, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now. Thanks so much for watching. Please visit my website, absolutesoulsecrets.com, for all things spiritual. Have a lovely day.